with me for 2 hours, then I'll do that. I didn't
do my research on those, but yeah, I remember for next time.
Yeah, next time. For the sequel, we can do that.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Well, thank you very much for coming round.
It's okay.
You done a run yesterday, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
A walk.
My first run. I do a lot of walking. I can walk for hours. But yeah, this was a little bit of a challenge, but really enjoyed it. Really good. One of the girls from my work, she stopped and started with me. So, but yeah, it's something I could quite get into.
Walking's
really enjoyed it.
Very good for it's cathartic walking, isn't it? I had to go for a walk this morning.
Yeah.
I like to go for a walk before I do these actually, because I feel it just gets my brain kick it into gear a little bit more. It's nice to be out in the fresh air. Do you find that when you go for a walk, it's like resets your day a little bit?
Yeah. Start
of a new chapter.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and a bit of part of my journey was starting off with a lot of walking. So, and whilst I walk, I listen to audiobooks. Depending on what kind of mood I'm in, I listen to an audiobook or some uplifting music, some music that makes me think. So it's always, it's just me time. And that's precious for me. So I do a lot of learning, and
it's hard to grasp some me time in the current world we live in. I'm just going to check something quickly.
Sure.
Obviously, what is it? So I was checking out your Instagram page a little bit. But it's my mum who told me to get hold of you.
Yeah.
And she said that you'd been sober for a long time, which is congratulations and well done.
Thanks.
For that. I know it's hard. It's one thing saying, I'm going to give up alcohol, but then to actually persevere is another thing. And then is it some sort of life coaching you do as well?
Yeah, so that's what I absolutely love doing. So that kind of came from my own personal journey of, alcohol it's a part of most people's lives in their older years, even teenage years. So you just kind of, it becomes a bit habitual. You go out for a weekend and a glass of wine at a special event, glass of wine, gin. So it kind of just becomes a bit of a habit.
Weddings, funerals.
Yeah, it's just there all the time.
It,
yeah. Happy times, sad times, and just sitting in on a Friday night watching a movie. So yeah, and it's enjoyable. Alcohol itself wasn't a problem.
Right.
But as the years go on, it's the hangovers and the interruptions that it has on your day-to-day routine that it just becomes a habit. So it was particularly bad hangovers I was having. And like I say, alcohol wasn't aggressive or anything like that. It was just It just became quite habitual, and I just thought, do you know what, I'm going to have a break.
Sure.
See how that goes. So made a decision. I thought, right, okay, I signed up to, it was like a 90-day challenge. I paid £80, and I thought, right, okay, I've paid £80, so I'm definitely going to show up for this. And then I was looking through my diary thinking, well, I've got this event coming up, and I was trying to schedule in when I was going to just say I'm going to stop drinking. And then I'd had, just a really fun weekend, and I was really, really rough on that Monday. And I thought, right, okay, this is the day I'm just going to stop doing it. And that was the 6th of August, 2019.
2019, 6th
yeah,
of August.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's well done. 4.5 years then, yeah?
Yeah.
It's about 1,200-300 days. That's a long time.
1,674, I think.
Yeah. Hey, there you go. Perfect. That's really good. So has you found it difficult?
The first few days was okay, because it was just normal. I mean, normally on a Monday you'd end up having a hangover, and you'd eat the crap food, and then come Thursday you're like, oh, I'm okay for the weekend again now. But I think that some of the challenges and the difficulties with not drinking on social events was the questions, why aren't you drinking? I'm like, I actually, and although I was quite open and said I'm doing a 90-day challenge, it was difficult for me to actually say why I wasn't drinking. I wasn't quite sure. I was like, I'm not quite sure. So over the course of the following few weeks and months, it was kind of unpicking my relationship with alcohol and getting a good understanding of that. And over the years, it's changed my perception of why I was drinking and why I stopped drinking. And interesting, one of your questions is why did you get sober? And I thought, if I kind of question it like that, I wasn't quite sure that I was a drunk. So I kind of thought to myself, what significance was alcohol in my life? So it wasn't that the drinking was problematic. It was the rest of the days and low motivation, poor digestion,
Oh.
all of that came with it was the issue, not the drinking itself. So, and I think a lot of people will perhaps relate to that. It's the knock-on effect of just feeling like rough for the whole week. And
Massively. Yeah, that is 100% one of the biggest issues, I think, personally as well. I can definitely relate to that. It's the aftermath, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, one thing I do quite negatively post drinking is like, I'll talk to myself in my head a lot. I'll be very negative towards myself. And that's just sort of like the dark side of alcohol. So it's like the aftermath. And I don't seem to... It used to be when I was a little bit younger, I'd get up on a Sunday morning or something, eat a bacon roll, and I'd be back to normal.
Yeah.
Now, as I gotten older, in the last 4 or 5 years, it will be like I could still be feeling a bit strange on Wednesday or Thursday. Still walking around the house a little bit on edge, less patience, no appetite and stuff like that. And it's like, I think you might have seen this as well. After when you abstain a little bit and and you sort of like step out into the sunshine and you're a bit more clear headed, you're like, oh, you know what? It's really great to feel normal.
Yeah.
Like the more normal you feel, then it's sort of addictive, isn't it? And I think that's probably how you've ended up doing it for 4.5 years. Maybe I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's you're like, I appreciate life more the longer I abstain from alcohol, I find.
I think for me personally was, again, when I was trying to set that date of, okay, when am I going to not drink from or just knock it on the head, was it wasn't so much replacing the drinking, it was replacing the rest of the week. So a lot of the time you'd feel lethargic and rough. You just embrace the hangover, wouldn't you? So
just dwell in your sorrow.
Yeah,
on the
and
couch.
it's expected. It's what you did all the time. So
pick up your phone and don't put it down for 7 hours or something.
So I decided to do a 6-week yoga course, which was at 9:30 on a Sunday morning. I thought I need to be up at 9:30. I need to be up early to get ready for yoga. So that was an incentive for me to not drink on a Saturday. So that lasted the 6 weeks, and then I started continuing walking, listening to books, listening to music, and that I was replacing the hangovers more than the drinking.
You're right, perfect. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
But the short term, again, it's the feeling rough, but the long term. So I was looking. I kept journals right the way through the days that I'd stopped drinking. And kind of like 2 weeks into the journey, it was 2 weeks was the longest period that I hadn't had a drink for. I was starting to get a bit of anxiety, because I don't know if that was a normal process of someone of my age to go through with stopping drinking, which wasn't very nice. And trying to explain to people why I wasn't drinking as well made me feel quite anxious. So after a couple of months, I decided I'm going to not do any social events, and just worked on myself a lot. And I signed up to quite a high intensive course, did a counselling course, did a life coaching course, and all of my energy was focused on building a relationship with myself, because the socialising just wasn't working. I just felt paranoid, anxious, and people were asking me questions, and I'm like, I don't actually know the answer to that. So now, like 4.5 years on, I'm in a completely different place where I absolutely love going out socialising. I'll go to festivals and I can get in my car and drive home. It's just, but it wasn't a short process. It wasn't until 2 years after that I started going out again.
It was about 2 years, was it?
Yeah.
It's not nice to be like, it's hard to be questioned, isn't it?
Yeah.
When people... it's one of the only things you have to like explain yourself for, or why you're not drinking, and then people even try to persuade you.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, just drink. Yeah. Like, if you left me alone though, I'd still this would be a lot easier.
And what was interesting was I kind of went through a little bit of not an aggro stage, but I was thinking, people are asking me why I'm not drinking, and I thought, well, why are you drinking? So I was thinking, I have to explain myself as to why I'm not drinking, but why didn't you explain yourself as to why you're drinking? So I kind of went through that little phase. I'm not going to lie, it was a little bit, and that's when I thought, I need to kind of take myself out of these situations now until I actually understand what my relationship with alcohol was. And it was all about my relationship with myself, So
it's like the more you stepped away from it, the more clarity you could find, I guess, because you had to like I think a lot of people say this, you have to kind of substitute it. I found that you have to substitute stuff. I can't just be carry on going to these events. Say I'm not going to give up alcohol, but then you do have free time. Yeah. If you don't use your free time wisely, or put your effort and your time or energy maybe into something else, then the walls get a little bit closed in, and you're like, should I go out? So how did you feel? You said like when you first started doing it, you'd do like 2 or 3 weeks, and then did you say you'd like have a drink again after 2 or 3 weeks?
No. So when
in the beginning.
So when I stopped on the 6th of August, and I haven't had a drink since. So when I used to drink, it was you'd feel rough on the Monday, and then come like Wednesday or Thursday, you're like, are you ready to get back on it again? But yeah, so it was. Yeah, it's
difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, and the physical effects the physical side of giving up alcohol, I had massive sugar cravings, and I wasn't aware of that until I was thinking I'm eating a lot more sugar. It wasn't until I kind of brought that into my consciousness. I was like, okay, well, I'm eating Haribos all the time, so it was more of a physical substitute as well, because your body is getting used to not having alcohol in it as well, and all the crap foods and all of that. So
the last thing you want to do is swap one bad thing for another, right?
Yeah. But it was just creating that awareness of why was I drinking in the first place? Why eating all these sugary foods? And it was I wasn't aware of that until about 6 months into it. I'm thinking, God, I'm eating quite a lot of crap still. You
have to become a bit more conscious, don't you?
Yeah.
So how was that? How did you find the journaling? What got you into start sort of journaling?
So I kept diaries of day-to-day things that were going on for me, and that was something I had to do for other reasons, which I won't go into. But
sure,
that was going back to like 2016. So I thought, okay, I'm going to keep diaries, and it wasn't until I did the counselling course where part of that it was a 12-month course where the main part of that was journaling. So although it's to understand yourself as a counsellor, I kind of went into the depths of, okay, who am I as a person? What are my beliefs? What are my values? What are my insecurities? And that was a massive thing for me. So, and that's something that I've continued doing. It's a daily thing, although I won't go into as much detail with journaling now. But if I have a good feeling, I'll make a note of it. If I'm had a bad feeling, I'll make a note of it as well. And it's when you look back on it, or even if you choose not to look back on it, because sometimes you write down your feelings and you're like, oh, I don't want to look at that again, it's a bit cringy, but getting it out there is incredible. It's powerful.
You
really
feel
powerful.
Exposed as well, don't you, when you're writing
vulnerable,
into a journal? Very vulnerable. You said you did you do it through the Tara Centre by any chance?
No, through Highlands College.
Through Highlands College.
Yeah. So it was I went up there every Wednesday, did the course. So it wasn't online or anything. You're there with a group of people, and some of the training was doing sessions with your colleagues, and that was the questioning and the questions that you get asked about things, and it's having that space to be able to talk about things that have gone on, or your anxieties or anything. But it was a pivotal moment for me. Doing that course has just really helped me massively. Yeah.
Reflection can be scary sometimes, right? Because you have to... I'd done journaling for a counselling course as well. I'd done 2 years with the Tara Centre, level 2 and 3. Yeah. The next level's diploma, but is 2 years, and I've just got some other stuff going on at the moment. Yeah. When you were journaling, did you have to... Was it just for yourself, or did it part of coursework you handed over to the tutor?
It was part of coursework, and you had to hit the criteria.
Yes,
so we do. I mean, you'll do the session, and then you'd have your set criteria to do on that module. But I kind of just changed it around and hit all the criteria, but it was more about me personally,
I remember when I was doing it, and some nights it's like you'd sit down at this desk, and you'd have this criteria sheet, and you're told which one you need to meet this week. So I got to start I got to take a trip down memory lane right now, so that would always make me a little bit nervous. And then I found sometimes when I was in that, say if I write for an hour and writing this journal down, it's hard because sometimes you're admitting stuff to yourself for the first time. There's also, it's like, there's some things you don't really want to admit, or it's like, do I want to be rummaging through this closet? And then also, like, after it, you know, if I'd been an hour in this mind space of taking a trip down memory lane, then it'd be 3 or 4 hours later, I'd be in bed and I'd be thinking about these stuff from my past, you know, that I hadn't thought about for years. And did you ever have it where it's like sometimes you open up the floodgates and then you start getting loads.
A lot of the time it was, and sometimes scheduling that time to sit down and do a journal it wasn't always productive as I thought it would be. But then there'd be moments where I'd think about something or listen to a tune that would spark something, and I'd be like, right, okay, this is probably a good time to get all of this down. And yeah, the floodgates opened a lot. And I think the floodgates opened because they hadn't opened in the past. So it's a process to kind of put certain things behind you, I suppose. Was that similar for you as well?
Yeah, it was definitely. It's like, because I'd confuse myself sometimes as well. I'd be like, are you remembering it correctly? Is that how it really happened? Is that how it really went down? And it's like, it was, I don't know how to explain it. Sometimes it made me feel nervous. Sometimes it felt cathartic. It's like, it's a weight lifted off you because it's good to get it off your chest. Yeah. But then to have stuff like that in the open, like you said, handing over this to a tutor, I know it's their job and they're used to sort of people expressing themselves and learning little secrets about everyone, and it's not going to go past this person. But I also found I would stop at a certain level of honesty. Mm-hmm. It's like I'll give them 50%, but I don't know if I'm ready to let this person know. Like, and then there's stuff that I'd never write about that I probably should have, you know. Yeah. And it's hard. It's a balancing act. I found it as a balancing act. Like, what do I want to admit? What's the truth? What am I mistaken for? And that. So it's difficult. Yeah. But so I assume you don't do the counselling course now, right?
No, I did level 2. I'm considering doing level 3 next year. But again, just going back to the journaling, being owning things within that journal, but then, like you say, forwarding it on for somebody else to actually read that, you're like, oh, it's a. I can't quite describe the feeling when you click that send button. You're like, oh my god, but then when you get the feedback to say, I mean, my tutor in particular was amazing, and he would kind of reflect on sometimes how beautiful it is that you've worded that, and you know, it's like it made me feel good getting his feedback that wow, you've really accomplished quite a lot, and it's great that you've reflected on that. So that for me, getting that validation, I suppose, was good.
I remember when it would be annotated with all these little side notes and like, oh, here we go, I'm scared to open this right now, and you're like, oh, well, of course they were going to be polite, like, do you know what I mean? They're there to help you in that and just guide you into sort of expressing yourself a bit. But how did you find then, did you do sort of like triad work where you would mock counsel people?
Yes.
Because that's another element of sort of being honest that I remember, like, one of the things I struggled with is like I could be with you know, in this group of 3, and someone could have a story that is like very upsetting without, you know, going into details, and I'm like, oh, how do I open up about my shitty day? Like, it's got nothing compared to the like what you're going through. And then I would always feel a bit, you know, it's one of those, it's like if everyone got a room and threw their problems in the air, you'd probably want to grab yours first, because everyone's got their problems. I found that a bit. I was like, oh, so like you've got it bad, you know what I mean, sort of thing. Did you ever find that when you were trying? Or how did you find even just being open and honest to someone face to face? Because that's another scary thing. Because
it was in a triad setting, so you'd have your helper, your the observer as well. The role that I preferred was the observer, so it was interesting watching the dynamic between the two, between the helper and the helpee. But yeah, being open, and a lot of the things, I'll be honest, I wasn't. It was things that I'd talk about work or something. I wasn't at that level to open up about things that were going on for me in that kind of setting.
Right.
But as part of in my personal life, I did have some therapy as well, so I opened up a lot more with my therapist rather than within the counselling sessions.
So you had another like avenue you could go down where the real talk sort of, or the talk that you wanted to kind of express more.
Yeah.
Is that right? Like,
yeah, you're right.
Because they're the professional. Right?
Yeah.
But how are people in your group? Like I remember when I done it for 2 years, there was 12 of us. I was the only male for 2 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it was really nice. Everyone was just so,
Yeah.
because I think because you're like wearing your heart on your sleeve and you're becoming to a degree, you're letting emotions out and you're being honest, and you're the bond that you sort of get with these groups is like you learn to I don't want to say appreciate them all, but you can become a lot closer. You spend the whole year with these people talking about, all the trials and tribulations of life and seeing other sides of people. I've always thought that was quite nice. Like.
Yeah. So there was one, all the group that we were in were just, I felt safe with all of them. One girl in particular, we're still very, very good friends now. She's on my bench. She's like one of my people. So we meet up from time to time, and she's gone on to do. She's doing level 4 at the moment. I think it's 2 or 3 years for level 4, and then there's I didn't realise there's actually level 6 as well.
It goes on and on and on, right?
Yeah. So she loves it, and she's amazing, and we still stay in touch and meet up from time to time.
Oh, perfect.
But yeah.
Do you find that some of the skills you learned like helped you in your personal life? When speaking to other people, speaking to the people like. Maybe your family members or your friends or relationships and partners. Like I remember when I was doing it regularly, when I was having sessions every week and doing the coursework every week, and it was part of the game really to try and implement it into your personal life and implement, all the paraphrasing and all the, I can't remember.
Verbatim.
That's it, it's repeating.
And holding the silences as well. That was really difficult for some people. That is a tough
one. Yeah. That is the tough one because it starts to get like... the walls close in super fast in the middle of silence, isn't it? Yeah. Do you feel that it helped you speak to like people, your family and people around you?
Yeah, for sure. And as in my career as well, management and leadership, you've got staff that come to you with different problems, and I think with doing the counselling course, I've got very calm approach. I've always been an amazing listener, and I'll just let people talk and vent and whatever. I've been in the complaints industry as well, so it's a lot of listening and kind of acknowledging that people are having a pretty shit day from time to time, and that's why they may be acting the way they are. So it's just kind of accepting other people that they're going through issues as well. So it really did help me with my family, with my kids, with my daughter says, "Oh, if I'm going to speak to Sue, she'll listen to you. She's calm, and it's lovely to be able to offer that to people, because being in that situation myself, you just want to be heard sometimes,
That's completely true. Yeah.
And that's all people want sometimes. Just want to be heard. You don't need to respond. Just listen to what I'm saying.
Some people just want to get stuff off of their chest, right?
Yeah, and it's not always about the validation. It's about just give me a safe space where I can just vent.
Just vent. That's it.
Don't take it personal. And people would generally leave, go, "Oh, I feel so much more better."
Yeah. Well, you learn to have more empathy for people as well. That's what I thought. Yeah. That's what I sort of learned from it. It's like it's one thing, and the way you talk to your family, your friends, partners, and relationships. But I think I saw like strangers in a different light. People who. I don't want to say they look miserable all the time, but people who are having a bad day and always seem to be having a bad day. And I think I tried to look at it from a different angle, but like, you don't know that person, mate. What's going on in their life? What environment they just come from? How were they raised? Who were their parents? You start trying to figure out stuff like that, and maybe you don't know. Instead of being I don't want to say opinionated, but just write somebody off so quickly, it's like to take a step back and maybe look at them in a bit more wider angle, what's going on in their life.
Yeah, because you just don't know.
You never know.
A lot of it comes out in people's behaviours, but like you say, you don't know what's happened to them 10 minutes before. You don't know what's happened to them 10 years before. So
yeah, and some people they haven't had the opportunity to get rid of that.
Yeah.
And they don't even know that they're sitting on it. A lot of people don't know what their issues are or what their problems are, or that's some things are just part of their personality because of X, Y, or Z.
Yeah, and a lot of people's personalities are created by something that's happened to them, and they just continue with that mood, and it just turns into who they are, to their being. Like you'll say, "Oh, so and so, yeah, they're quite moody," or "So and so, yeah, they're always bubbly," and it's just the repetition of what they're doing day in and day out that just creates who they are as a person as well.
Yeah, you're a product of your environment, right?
Exactly.
And it's like,
yeah, and
when you go through traumatic things, sometimes people can never shift that, or it just stays with them for like perpetual amount of time.
Yeah.
When you were doing so, it's one thing I found hard when I was doing the counselling. I don't know if you don't mind speaking about that a little bit more. Not necessarily.
No, of course.
That because I was fully invested into becoming a counsellor, and I had to sit still and think, is this what I really, like, what is it that you want out of life? And I kind of thought to myself that I more want to help people. I more want to be, like, I volunteer at the youth service a couple of nights a week sometimes, and then I was like, I like being around the children. I like sort of helping them and the guiding kids and stuff like that. So I always thought that was nice. I was like, I don't really need to be a counsellor to do that. So do I want to see this out to the end? Because it's like, you know, a lot of coursework, a lot of homework. It takes up your life for a couple of years. Yeah. Then another thing as well that hit me that I wasn't expecting until I'd done it. It was like, are you going to be someone who's able to sit down with these people, hear these stories of trauma and that, and then walk away from it later in the day when you're not counselling them and when you're not like a counsellor anymore? Like I would find, maybe I overthink, but some things sit with me, you know, like if someone tells me something they've been through, this thing, it's meant to end there really as a counsellor, isn't it? Or it's meant to, like, you might think about it later on, but it's not meant to affect you on a deep manner where it's like, you know, sometimes I feel like my empathy radar's through the roof. Like I've got too much empathy for people who I, not that I hardly know, but, you know, it's like, I don't know if I'm explaining it in the correct way, but it's just,
it makes sense. Yeah,
it's just, and then I thought to myself, you know, if you sat down and this was your job, would you be able to go home every night after hearing horror stories and stuff like that and not overthink about it and not let it affect you personally? Like, is that what you want out of your life? I don't know. So that was like a deliberation I went through when I was contemplating whether I should carry on doing the course, or whether it is a counsellor I want to be or whether it's something else. Did you find that when you were...
Again, what you're saying about the counselling course, it's, you know, you aspire potentially to be a counsellor, but again, you know, if in counselling you learn what your boundaries are, and if you're not comfortable with hearing those things, then you say, well, that's not what I want to do. And you know, there'll be, having those skills that you've got now will further down the line put you in a good position, perhaps through your own experiences or things that you can perhaps put boundaries in place and help people without feeling all of that emotion yourself. So with the counselling, it's kind of with empathy, you're walking that road with somebody, but you're able to pull away and not keep all that emotion yourself. But you know your boundary, and if you don't want to deal with that, then you know it's hard. Yeah,
you have to be more vocal and say it. But I found as well, like, a lot of that comes with experience and training. It's a skill set. I found it's a skill set you've got to work on. Like, I've not done it for about 2 years now, and I feel like, you kind of want to pop your head back into it, even if it's some reading or something, because I can feel the skill set that took me 2 years to learn sort of not fading away, but it's not as prominent as it was when I was in the middle of it doing it. Do you find that it's like, if you don't keep at it, then it sort of dwindles away from you?
And you know, sometimes in your day-to-day life, you might, I mean, even doing this, you're perhaps using a few of those skills that you've learned in your counselling. So and again, it's been with the counselling as well, it's being self-aware and understanding your own triggers and your own boundaries. And again, I mean, maybe just, you know, if there's any other things that you can do with what you're doing now, using those skills, or being aware that you're using those skills, because you might not be aware that you're actually using them when you are. So,
because I always was quite admirable of like the tutors, because they just had that on. You could tell they've been doing it for years, right? And you're like, oh, that was good. That was good the way you done that, especially when they would observe you. I always found that nervous as well, because you have your little triad, and then every now and then the tutor would observe you, because she's gonna, you know, critique you to a degree, and you're like, I wasn't nervous, but now we're talking. Now I'm nervous.
Then when you have the camera as well, you're like, oh, you've got to play it back and look at it. It's a bit cringy, but you know, it's
like the thrown in the deep end with no armband sort of thing, isn't it? It's like sink or swim. You just got to do it, and then you come out the side a little bit better. And you always come out as well, like it's that weight lifted off your shoulder thing. You're like, oh, I feel good. You know, like post-exercise feeling. You do get that from counselling sometimes, don't you? Like when you leave the door or whatever, you're like, oh, this is a good day. I feel a little bit better.
And then you have that thought gap as well, that you think, oh, did I say that right? Or what was that? What did that person perceive my conversation to be like? So you always have that little thought gap as well. So
and I think it's important as well, like if anyone is like thinking about getting some sort of counselling, is that you're not obliged to stay with whoever it is that you've been like handed, are you? Because I know, like, I've seen 2 counsellors in my life. One was for like, I think I was having a bad time once when I was quite young, and I just didn't vibe with the woman. She wasn't very professional. I remember she was telling me, like, She told me who she'd seen and that, and which is like a breach of like confidentiality. Like when I learned counselling, I was like, oh yeah, that woman was actually a really bad counsellor. Then I seen another man. Do you know Steve Lalonde? He works drug and alcohol.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know him personally. But
he's such a lovely person. Yeah. He worked at Advanced to Work. I want to say if it's that for a few years, and I think I'd done that for a year when I left school, so I was familiar with him. And then when I ended up seeing him as like a counsellor, and maybe a year and a half or something. Okay. Every session with him, I was just like, I wanted to go see him, and he was like, I don't know if it's because he was a few years older than me and whatever. But I bring this up because I had a really bad experience, and I just didn't want to see this woman, and I was like, I couldn't think of anything worse than going to speak to this woman today. And then the other one was like, nah, this is super helpful and moved me along in the place at a time of life where I needed to be moved along a little bit. I was obviously there for a reason because I needed help with a couple of things, and he did help. It helped massively. Like I got good results, and kind of set me on a path to be like, oh, it's time for a change, man. I feel ready. And that's another thing I found is like, you can go there, but if you need to be ready in yourself sometimes as well, to be opening up and to be, if you don't want to be there, then you're not going to get as much out of it as if you want to be there. Yeah. Do you find that?
Yeah. And again, what you're saying about matching to a specific counsellor, you've got to have that relationship with them. You've got to be able to trust them. You've got to be able to feel safe in being completely vulnerable with that person. And it sounds like you were a great match with Steve, whereas the other counsellor might have been a great match to somebody else, but it sounded like her skills needed perhaps a little bit more work.
I think she's a bit of an old timer, and I don't know. She wanted this young kid moaning about, I don't know what. Yeah.
And it's about the dynamics of that coaching and client, or whatever relationship it is that needs to be there.
Well, it's one of the first things you learn, isn't it? That you have to really, as a counsellor, like you have to watch what you say, because if you say the wrong thing, then the shield can come up, and you could have ruined the whole thing for forever. Yeah. But yeah, is there anything else on counselling you want to say? Or?
So I think the skills that I learned, or the skills that I became aware of with counselling, helped with my coaching as well. So it's just like I say, the counselling course was just invaluable for me. And again, I didn't want to go on to level 3 at that time. It was a lot more theory and a lot more academical, and I just thought I just wanted to see where the level 2 was going to take me, and so I did that 2.5-3 years ago. So it's taken me in a good direction. So
yeah. And then, so if we go on to like the life coaching, what does that even entail? I'm not too sure, like what the process of that is or how.
Yeah, so I also, as part of having so much more time on my hands with no hangovers and no drinking and having all of this energy, I enrolled on another course. I was still working at the post office at this time, and in my personal life, my kids had grown up and moved out, so there was I had more time to myself, but I kind of struggled with that a little bit because my eldest daughter's 32, my son's 30, my youngest is 19, and as over the years you become a wife, you become a mum, you become in a career, so you kind of lose a little bit of who you are, but when not so much who you are, but if you ever discover that in the first place, that's great. I mean, I kind of had my kids quite young, so and as they're more independent, there is more time for me, but I didn't know how to use that time. So again, the counselling course, and another course that I enrolled on was being a digital nomad. I thought to myself, I'd love to be able to work from anywhere. So and that course also had a lot of marketing tools and what do you want to be as a coach. So that's where I was thinking, okay, what kind of coach do I want to be? What is my niche? So a lot of it came from my own personal experience, not so much around giving up alcohol, but in terms of a bit of a change when you reach your mid-40s. How do you reconnect with yourself? So going back to your younger years, from the age of 15, it's like, okay, everything's a possibility. What do you want to be when you grow up? Everything's, what do you want to be to achieve your potential? So you can go to uni, you can, there's so many options for you to do as a teenager. you embark on a career, you have kids, you have family, and, you know, by your mid-30s, you're in your...
Windows closed, windows closed.
So you have kids, and that becomes your life, which is amazing. You know, you're a parent, you're a wife, you're a husband, or whatever. But then as that changes and you have time to yourself when your kids are more independent, you think, this is a bit weird. And so what I kind of do as part of my coaching is kind of go back a little bit. Okay, not pretend you're 15 again, but okay, what is your potential? Because you've fallen into a certain lifestyle of being responsible for others, and you kind of lose track of what it is that you want to be. So I think to myself, now I'm 50 this year, and I think, what do I want to be when I grow up? So I've got all this potential now, and going through the process of giving up alcohol, gaining a better relationship with myself. It's kind of, what is my potential now that I've had my kids, had my career? I left Jersey Post after 21 years. That was very uncomfortable. It was secure. It was, you know, it kept me safe. And I was like, okay, what can I do differently? And it's finding the courage to do that as well, because it's coming well out your comfort zone.
You have to take a trip back in time to the past a little bit.
Because you know, by the age of 35, you're just, your habits, you know, that's what your life is really, I suppose.
So you're asking yourself, like, who am I? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now that the kids aren't there taking up all your time, which is great at the time, but you're like, okay, so what do I now? What do I do like now?
It's like quiet again. You're like, oh, I've got some time to think.
Yeah.
And that is true. Like, when the longer you abstain, I find, from alcohol, your energy just soars. So all these things that, you know, that might have just been a thought when you were, you know, on and off drink, they become more than thoughts. They fruition into actual, like, reality. And then when they become reality, they're a bit more fixed. So you have to, like, look through them and actually have a little rummage through and be like, yeah, who am I? What did I used to like? I think that's something I've found from, you know, like, abstaining from alcohol for long periods of time. It's like, I felt like I was catching up with the kid who I was as a kid.
Okay. Yeah.
And that made me a lot happier as well. Like, I can remember, I think, up until 15, I was this bubbly kid, spring in his step.
Yeah.
Went through life's ups and downs or whatever, and then came out the other side, and I was like, am I actually happy? Like, what did I used to like? What did I used to enjoy? And then what I'd done is, I used to think that all the time, but now, because I got more free time, I'm like, well, implement what you used to like. Yeah. Catch up with who you were as a kid. Yeah. I'll watch, like, the movies I used to watch or something, even little things. It's just like, I don't know, it's great. It's a nice feeling to just to be like, to sit down and be like, it's kind of like character development, isn't it? You're just picking at all these little marbles, and you're like, right, I'll keep that in my thing. Oh, I'll get rid of this. I'll keep that. I'll get rid of this. And you're just working out who you are once again. Yeah,
yeah. What things, like you say, what things do you enjoy? But as you get that bit older, and you've got a lot of life experiences, and, you know, there's loads of mistakes that you make as parents, as work in your career and everything. You kind of think, okay, what have I learned from that? And a lot of the last few years for me is reflecting back on, okay, what have I learned? And you know, going through what my insecurities were, and really sitting with a lot of those feelings, which at times was quite difficult, because what you want to do is, if something uncomfortable, you're like, oh, it doesn't feel right, I'll just put it to one side.
That's it.
But,
avoid
you know,
it.
Yeah. Or, like, not so much have a glass of wine to avoid it, but you just, you know, life happens and you just put it to one side and it becomes buried. And then years and years down the line, you're doing things and thinking, oh, why do I do that? But then creating that self-awareness, okay, why do I do that? Could it be because of this? And it's kind of digging things up a little bit that you're comfortable with digging up, but then you need to go into what feels uncomfortable, because once you can overcome all of those emotions that are associated with that. I mean, sometimes people, I mean, I used to get a bit panicky about, well, I now realise I had a fear of getting lost.
Right.
I didn't realise that's what it was, but I used to get a bit panicky. If I had someone in the car with me, I'd be like, oh, how do we get to this destination? How do we get here? So in January 2022, I booked myself a flight to Canada to visit my uncle for 2 weeks. So I stayed with him for a week, and then I went to Toronto to put myself in positions where I could get lost. And it was the most, you know, even just people can find their way through Google Maps or anything. I get lost in a map. North is that way, south is that way. So I just thought I need to put myself in these positions, because otherwise I'm not going to... I'd love to go travelling, but that's holding me back.
So you stared into the belly of the beast sort of thing? Yeah,
pretty much. And I was fine. But one particular day I stayed in an Airbnb in Toronto, and I thought, right, okay, I want to go to this particular restaurant. How do I get there? So I looked on the map. The little blue dot was showing me where to go. And I went the complete wrong way. But on the way, 45-minute walk, on the way, I've discovered so many things that I would have not discovered if I had have just gone straight there. So looking at being lost, you find a lot of things. I know it sounds a little bit cliche, but you find a lot of things whilst being lost to your destination. So, and that's kind of how I think about it now. If I'm going to get lost, I'm not going to disappear. I've got technology to help me find my way. But yeah, there's a lot of things that you see that you might not necessarily see if you follow the path that you're supposed to take.
That's good. That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
So you're just like, that sounds like, I guess, to an element, then you're like analysing your own mannerisms and your own habits. Mm-hmm. And that's hard to do sometimes unless you're sitting still. Yeah. Do you find? Yeah. And as well with like the getting lost thing, you sort of see that, oh, this is what I was worried about. It ain't that bad. Yeah. Do you have that feeling like, I had all this apprehension, like, oh, I'm going to get lost, or these are what my worries are, and then you're like, well, I'm in the middle of this right now, and your mindset sometimes is scarier than what could ever actually happen. Yeah,
naturally you over catastrophize, but then it's like, I mean, it's two words that are exactly the same. What? Oh my God! What if this? What if this? But you just change it. Okay, what if? Actually, what if I did turn left? What would happen? You just think of it from a different perspective, and it's going to turn out great.
It's never as scary as it seems.
No, it's not. It's all the things that you kind of manifest in your head. But if you manifest it in a different way, it's just going to,
Yeah. So do you feel like then with your personal experiences and everything you've gone through and doing the courses and that's given you the ability to say, all right, I'm ready to like maybe sit down with people and make their journey easier to guide? Is that what your like goal is as a life coach? Just be like, if somebody else is, you're not at the beginning of your journey, are you? You're not at the beginning of whatever it is that you've gone through. So do you feel like, if someone else is at the earlier stages of this, I can join in as a little bit of help and say, here's some guidance, here's how you get through it a little bit easier? Is that what it sort of entails? Yeah, the clients that I've worked with, I've not been doing any advertising, but some of the Instagram posts that I post, people say, oh my God, you're quite inspiring. And it's generally people that are around my age that have had their kids and things are shifting for them. There's a bit of disruption going on and they're like, okay, well, things are different in their own personal lives, and they're looking at different things on the internet. They're looking at different Instagram posts and they feel inspired by something that I've done. And it's not necessarily that they want to do what I've done, but they're like, what did you do? How did you get to where you are now? Because 5 years ago I was a very, very different person. I look different, I'm very different in my vibe. So, and people that I hadn't seen for a long time now see me going, oh my God, you just look so different. What have you been doing? What's your secret? So I can tell people about the journey that I've been on, but theirs will be completely personal to them, but it's the same process. It's okay, what habits do you have? Are these habits serving you? What are your habits gonna make your life look like in a year's time? And again, the clients that I work with are generally around my age that are at a point where they're like, okay, I want to do something different. I'm a bit scared. What do I do? And a lot of the clients are like, I'm too scared to do this, because you've got to be vulnerable. You've got to dig a little bit deeper into, okay, why am I scared of getting lost? And I understood why I was scared of getting lost. It was something that happened when I was younger at primary school, but it was me digging around in there and finding it and sitting with it and going, it's actually not that scary. So I feel like as humans, one of our biggest fears is change. I don't know why that is. Yeah, isn't it? Even if it's change for the better, you can see that something's going to be amazing, but it's like, oh shit, I've got to do something different. It feels uncomfortable because you've trained yourself to do something in a certain way, and then you do something different. Your body's going, hey, hang on a minute, but this is how we roll, and you go to do something different, and it just feels different, doesn't it? So do you find with like some of the people you've seen, I know you can't go into it, but like that initial like taking that first leap is what's quite scary for them.
Massively scary. Yeah.
And then how do you help them navigate that? Do you have like a certain rule set that you follow, or you just because obviously, like you said, everyone's different, so you probably have to familiarize yourself with the person that you're getting to know before you can implement, oh well, this is what we'll do for you, or this is how we'll help you.
And it's again, like we were saying before, it's building that relationship, and you're not always a good fit for that client, you know, but it's providing a safe space for them to be able to explore what they want to do differently, what's gone on in their lives perhaps, and if they don't want to talk about it, then that's okay. But again, as part of it is using journaling in their own, you know, they don't have to bring everything to the table during sessions, but going away and thinking, okay, I want to unpick that a little bit more, or not, you know. And it's, you know, they don't need to be open and honest about everything to me, but being open and honest about things to themselves is the main thing. And, you know, I'm not an expert in my clients, they're the experts in them.
Yeah.
So I can, I mean, there's the coaching that I do is like transformational and transactional as well. So there's certain specific things, try this change, try that change, but then do what's a good fit for you. So it's quite, I mean, I work with people for about 6 months, because it's not a quick fix. You can sign up to a to a 3-week course and you'll notice some changes, but then it's not a consistent lifestyle change. So this is about creating a new lifestyle, because you're not going to be the same person as you were when you had kids, and being a parent in that respect, parenting goes to another level. And there's more to unpack, isn't there? Yeah, sure.
And 2 or 3 weeks is easy. You could read a book and maybe learn a couple of facts or something, but 6 months is going to help you build habits that you can implement as they leave you, or as they progress into their own life and you're not around anymore, and they have to do everything on their own now, and they're sort of back into the wild. So you're like, 6 months seems like a good time, really.
And it's, you know, I'm still creating different habits. I always do things differently as well, I think, because even if you create a good and healthy lifestyle, you can become complacent in that. So it's just thinking, okay, does that habit still work for me, and should I be doing this slightly different? It depends, like you were saying before about your gym and your training. If you want to do weights, you've got to put on a bit of weight. If you want to do something different, you've got to adapt your lifestyle to be able to give you the tools to be able to do that. So actions
speak louder than words. Yeah. What made you want to help others then? Because it's obviously quite a profound job, and there's a sense of reward in that as well with helping others, and it's just, I don't know. I think as well in the current climate of this the environment and society we live in, I think it's becoming a lot more prevalent that a large majority of people are feeling like, I don't feel really good, man. I need to change something in my life. Or have you seen as maybe the years have gone on? Or I don't know if it's because it's less taboo. It's less taboo in the world we live in now as well, which helps massively. Yeah. So there's more funding towards it. That's more spoken about, a little bit more open. I think social media's probably helped that a bit. People wear their hearts on their sleeves a little bit more. Stuff like podcasts has helped. But have you found that, or does it feel to you in recent years that a lot more people are sort of reaching out for help, or reaching out for can you help me make a change, please?
Yeah. And again, there's so many resources out there. A lot of free help, and a lot of stuff on the internet, like you said, podcasts and a listening lounge and talking therapies. There's a lot out there for people to access. I think for me personally, when I decided to do the 90-day challenge, that financial commitment made me show up more. It is a financial commitment, and that made me kind of make sure I've committed £80 to this. I'm definitely going to show up and do it. Sometimes, and you've got the group. You've got the group holding you accountable as well. So it's that kind of worked for me. So
you don't want to let other people down as well. In group stuff and that. I found that I go to the gym with this kid, and if he tells me he's not going, I'm more prone to be like, maybe I won't go today. Yeah. If I know he's getting up at 7, I'm up at 7 every time, because I don't want to let him down. You know?
I so after about 2 years after I'd stopped 2 years after I'd stopped drinking. I'd never been to a gym, never done any kind of fitness or anything. I probably weighed around 82 kg at the time. And my daughter had signed up with a PT. She was doing some online PT sessions. And I thought, right, I'm gonna do this, take myself well out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
Signed up with a PT, and that was showing up in my PE kit, looking like really like nervous and everything. And that was a big process for me as well. I didn't go with any intention to lose weight. I just thought I need to do something to get a little bit fitter. So I was doing
positive,
a lot of walk. Yeah. And through the process of doing that, I started eating a lot healthier because I still had the sugar cravings as well. But not focusing on numbers and not focusing on losing weight, I ended up losing 8 kilos. And then that altogether I've lost 22 kilos, but I never focused on losing weight.
22 kilos,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Thanks. But I hadn't gone out with I want to lose weight. I just changed little bits within my life over those couple of years, and as a byproduct, I lost
The building blocks just start falling into
Yeah.
place sometimes, isn't it? I find that as well. It's like the initial jump, and then you're just like things start coming to you.
Yeah.
It's almost like, I don't know if have you ever read like the law of attraction and that?
Yeah.
I used to read The Secret quite a lot and stuff like that when I first started changing my like habits and my story. I grew a new sort of. Well, I was attempting to grow a new mindset when I was ready to implement change as well. And I read The Secret a few times, and the more you read it, you're like, oh, this is definitely true. This works and stuff like that. Yeah. But I found that as well. Like when I took initial jump, podcast is a great example. You know, it's like I was scared to do the first one, and I was scared to put it out there, let people know this is what I'm going to start doing. And then, you know, things would just happen throughout the week. It's like I felt like the universe was serving me something like, carry on, dude, man, you're doing well, carry on. This is where you're meant to be. It's the path you're meant to be on, because things would fall into place is what I'm trying to say.
Everything falls into place. It does. Yeah.
And you see it happen.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I kind of feel like this is where I'm meant to be then, eh?
Yeah. And again, it's overcoming all of the you don't have to overcome everything that's gone on in your life. And, you know, a lot of people, you know, there's little things that it's not maybe a significant trauma that happened, but there's little things that have happened that have made you feel uncomfortable that you just think, oh, I don't want to deal with that right now.
So do you advise you know, the people that you help, do you advise them to journal? That's a massive
part of it. Yeah.
So if someone was maybe listening to this and thought, oh, I like what they're talking about, I'm going to give it a go, like what would you tell them how to start? Or is that giving away your secrets?
No. Journaling's just, it's whether you're working with a coach or anything, journaling, and you know, it feels a little bit weird at first if you're not used to doing it, but it's I use on my phone, I just use it's not even an app, it's just a little notepad, and I just put the date and journal, and sometimes I can just be writing about my day or something that's made me feel weird or something that's gone well. I'll always I don't schedule time to do it, but sometimes if I'm, you know, first thing in the morning, if I'm having a coffee, I've got 5 minutes, I'm like, write down something about anything. But what I find really good is I don't read back on them. I wouldn't go back on it the next day and say, okay, how did that make me feel? But I'll look back on a journal 12 months ago. Oh my God, I can't believe I was doing that. And then 12 months prior to that. And that's where you realise how far you've come in your journey by looking back and going, oh my God, I didn't realise that. You know, like a memory hop.
Yeah.
So
like, you know, gym people have before and afters, don't they? It's sort of like a mental before and after of how you're doing in life.
But journaling, just jotting down a couple of things until it's creating a positive habit, and journaling's a really good, positive, powerful thing to do. And it might feel a bit uncomfortable at first, but every change feels uncomfortable, whether it's journaling or changing something is uncomfortable. But just do it each day, and then it will become something that you'll find a really, really useful tool. And
it feels foreign at first, doesn't it? And like that foreignness it's a bit scary. Like, and you do have to get used to it. Because I know I banged on before about the sort of journaling I'd done via like the counselling coursework, but I did actually attempt unrelated to journal a bit on my own, write it down. And one thing I always thought that I struggled with was like, how do I say it? It's like I ended up writing about stuff that, you know, this is it, I'll just do an example. So I'd be like, I am grateful for the fact that I've woke up today in like a nice house, and I'm glad the sun's out, and I was thinking, that feels forced. I felt like it didn't feel too honest to me, and that's what I struggled with, and I think that's why I packed it in, because I was like, you're just generic, you're being very generic here. that's not the game here. You're meant to be doing something else. And I didn't know what thought process to go. I didn't know how to grasp it.
Yeah.
Do you find people do that when they sit down there? Like, you might get this from the people that you have with, like, they ever come back to you and say, I picked up the pen, I picked up the paper, but I felt lost.
Yeah, just don't know what to write. And, you know, being, like you say, if it's forced, it's not going to have the same effect. But, I mean, even starting off just doing a bit of a diary. So, got up at 6, did this, went
good.
to work. And then you're just kind of jotting down little bits of information, and then you can kind of open it up a little bit. Oh, went to work, felt knackered. Or went to work, actually the sun was out, really good day. And then it kind of expands from there. You'll end up, without realising it, putting more effort into it, or a little bit more. And it depends on how much time you've got as well. A lot of people say, I don't have time to do that. But sometimes, I mean, even going for a little walk or sitting in the park or something, just jotting things down, or just saw this runner going past. Oh, I like the trainers. You know, it's
you do have time.
You can write about it. Yeah.
People like to say they don't. You got 5 minutes.
Yeah, of course. Even sit on the loo.
Literally anything. Yeah, if you got your phone in your hand, then you're able to do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So cool. So like with the drinking thing, I don't mind if you mind speaking about that.
Sure.
You found it. What was some of the difficulties you found in like the last 4.5 years?
Again, I think the difficulties was the initial
explaining.
Yeah, and not really understand, because I thought to myself, have I got a drink problem? Is it, you know, why am I not drinking? Why, you know, what it was a little bit of a question mark. So I kind of put a pin in it and didn't, you know, like I said, I stayed out of social events because it was, people really were like, why are you not drinking? And it was, and then at the same time, other people were like, oh yeah, I wish I could stop drinking.
Right.
You know, and it's, people are curious about not drinking as well. So there's a curiosity around it.
People know, everyone's clocked on. It's why half the world does dry January. Because they know they wouldn't do that if there wasn't some sort of, I shouldn't be drinking. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, people are becoming a little bit more open-minded to it. Yeah. Did you find then being hard, like, you know, when you're so, like, because I know it took you a while, but you said that you, if I'm correct, that you obviously started socialising again to like a full extent, like as you would if you're probably going out drinking, but you just weren't drinking, you'd still go to the events, etc., etc. How did you find being in the event, like as a sober person around people that are like
after a couple of years? So it was I started went to live in the square and out there, and just generally, I mean, I still go to, I didn't take myself completely away from social events, you know, there was parties and weddings, except, you know, so I didn't think I can't go to those because I'm not drinking. I still went to those, but as I changed and people got to know that, Sue drinks sparkling water, do you fancy sparkling water? And that's how people know me now. What does Sue drink? Sparkling water. So, you know, it's kind of changing what I do, but then people understanding that I've changed and not having to answer those questions. They just know that's how I roll now. But going out and doing the social events, again, it's taking that pressure of people asking me, why don't you drink? It's more like they're more curious as to, you know, what do you do? And it's, I mean, I'll have like one-to-one conversations with people and I'll be like, I really need to get in touch with you. I need a little bit of help. People are looking at it from a different perspective now because they've seen the changes that I was 5 years ago to who I am now. People are like feeling a bit inspired and like, I'd love to do what you're doing, but it's still a little bit secretive as well. Maybe their reasons for drinking or their reasons for wanting to stop drinking it's personal to them, and they don't necessarily want to communicate that with other people. And that's how I've got a couple of my clients through that. They want to do something different. Not that alcohol's a big problem for them. They just want to do something differently. So
you're leading by example then, aren't you?
Yeah.
That's cool, man. It's good, yeah. It's hard. I always found like sort of being around. Do you know what it is as well? I don't know if you found this. It's like, it goes back to the sort of character development thing. It's like the 5th time you go out sober in a crowd of drunk people is a lot easier than the first time you ever do it. Mm-hmm. You notice very quickly, again, like we talked about before, like it's scarier than it seems. It's always scarier than it seems. Yeah. I found that like when now I don't mind. Now I can be around people and not drink. And just tell people, look, I'm not drinking.
Yeah.
And that's it, really. Before I used to go red, I used to be embarrassed. Oh, just get me a pint then.
Yeah.
So I will just drink. I don't
Yeah.
even want to, but I can't be asked to explain myself, so I'll buckle at this stage.
Yeah. And then, you know, after a couple of drinks, people don't even care that you're not drinking, you know. But in the early days, I was like, oh my God, drunk people are so annoying. They just repeat themselves. And I was the worst for that, you know. I was like, used to chatting away. Oh God. But the great thing is you can just go, see you later, I'm off now, off home, no hangover the next day. And
you feel good. You still feel good. You know, you're going to get up and just be like, oh.
Yeah. I take loads of photos. And it's funny because the next day I'll look through them and I'll be like, oh my God, what a great night. But the next day after drinking, you'd be like, oh my God, I can't even look at those. I feel cringy.
Don't show me for a
week. And I'm like, but you were having a great time, you know. They're like, oh, but I feel like shit now.
Is that really me?
Yeah.
How do you find social events over here in Jersey?
I enjoy it. You know, I can, you know, I'll go to a few social events. I went clubbing in Liverpool the other weekend, you know, and it was just, it was good. You
appreciate it more as well, I think, through sober eyes.
Yeah.
A, because you actually remember what you've been up to, and B, it's just like, I don't know, it's nice. It's nice to be out the gaff and remember it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
and then feeling good after it as well, because if I've been out the night before, Sunday morning, I'll put my headphones in and go through the fields, whereas normally I'd just be like eating beef soup and noodles on the couch, feeling rough, you know. Just not so much wasting a day, but just processing all the after effects of alcohol, where I've had exactly the same night, probably more fun, and bowling through the fields, remembering what a good time it was.
Yeah. Literally.
Yeah.
And do you have like young people that get hold of you? Do you find, or is it?
I've worked with a couple of younger clients. I think where it's more productive is people that are kind of going through the same process that I have, people that are around my age, about 45 to 55, finding a bit more time to themselves or coming to a point where like, I'm not quite sure what I need to do, what I want to do, whereas the youngsters are perhaps getting married, starting families. So I've kind of, although I've got experience in doing that, what I'm probably more helpful for is that the process after you're getting your independence back, and okay, what do I want to be and what do I want to do now? What's my potential? You know, what am I capable of at this point in life after family and career? Yeah,
you can help Maria get off the gin. She's going to look at that and be like, "I'll wait till I speak to him." No. So do you have like any go-to habits then, or that help you like maintain a sort of healthier lifestyle?
So my again, I've tried a lot of different things as well. So I worked with a PT for probably about a year. Started doing a bit of weightlifting as well, which was again looking back to I took pictures and I kept journals about how I felt going into the gym, and looking back some of the videos that I've done on my Instagram lifting, I managed to lift 110 kg. Wow. I think there's no way I'd ever be able. It was on the hex bar, but before that I couldn't even do.
That's amazing. That's a lot.
Yeah, my PT said to me, "What do you want to achieve? What is your goal?" I went, "I want to do a pull up." Okay, I still can't do a pull up from like straight, but I can lift 110 kg. I can do sit ups. I can do I can so much more that I've done that I've absolutely smashed. But I still can't do a pull up. So if you focus on that main goal too much, sometimes you lose track of what you've actually achieved. And I just love the process, of learning something new. So I did pole exercise as well. That was amazing. I did that for about a year. It was a couple of books that I'd read as well. One particular book, which made me think about the foods that I eat, was a book called Cured.
Right.
And it just focuses on your immune system. So although I don't just eat for fuel, I'm just very conscious of what I do eat. So I do have my regular breakfast. I have blueberries every morning, 100% dark chocolate, nuts, strawberries. That's what I have for my staple breakfast. I'll still go out and have fish and chips, or I'll still have curries and things, but I'll have hot water and lemon in the morning, make sure I'm drinking a bit of water and,
moderation.
So I just, I kind of look at what my body needs to be healthy. It's kind of like the 80-20 rule, isn't it? 80% of the time eat decent food and
you listen to yourself. So it sounds like you listen to yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
And writing stuff down helps with, I guess it's like, you can call them like checkpoints, aren't they?
Yeah.
Because we are quick to forget, A, what we've achieved, B, what we've went through sometimes. So it's like, I mean, if you have it noted down somewhere, then you're more likely to be like, oh, actually, because years go quick, don't they? Right? 6 months goes quick, or a year goes quick. So, I mean, having it wrote down and being able to, I guess it's like a mini revisit, isn't it? You revisit, it's like a visualization of, I have actually came far.
Yeah.
Sounds like you've done amazing. You've done a lot.
Yeah, I've done
110 kg, lost 22 kilograms.
Yeah.
Got your diet sorted out.
Yeah. And they weren't things that I set out to do. But they've just happened as, I love walking. And while I'm walking, I listen to books. And by listening to books, I learn things. So, and then I make a little change to something that I'm doing, or think about what I'm going to do with my coaching program. It's all of those little things that, whilst you're doing something that you enjoy, if you love the process, other things happen.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
And it's like, why would I not want to feel better? I think that's why becomes an element of, it's actually quite easy to start implementing these things after you've done it. Once you've got it under wraps a bit and you're used to like building a couple new habits, you're like, why would I not just carry on doing this, if I feel great? I think, like, it's again a bit like I found with alcohol, the more I step away, the better I feel.
Yeah.
And then I'm more apprehensive to revisit it.
Yeah.
Because for me, it feels like 1 step forward, 10 steps back. And it gets to a point you're like, I don't really want to take any more steps back.
And you kind of think to yourself, you look at alcohol, alcohol isn't a problem for everybody. I mean, certain things that you do in your life, it's just becoming self-aware and saying, is this habit, what is this, if I continue doing this for a year, what's my life going to look like in a year? Is it going to be good or not? And it's making those conscious decisions, because you get to a certain age and you're just running on unconscious programs. 95% of what you do, driving to work in the morning, walking to work in the morning, you're not actually remembering what you're doing because you just do it subconsciously. But once you kind of bring out these subconscious things into your conscious, you can then be aware of them, change them or don't change them. Is it working for me? Yeah. Is it not working for me? No. Try and change it.
Wow, yeah, that's actually good advice. So what you're saying, like, you're less on autopilot then, aren't you?
Yeah.
It's all trial and error as well.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Cool. So we can wrap it up soon. Is there anything else that you wanna bring up or you wanna discuss, or
no?
You wanna drop any truth bombs on people?
Truth bombs. Oh my god. I think one thing, a lot of people, like I say, my lifestyle's completely changed. I vibe a lot higher. I'm not kind of embarrassed and shameful and all of that. People will say, "Oh, you're just so positive about everything," and I kind of find a positive in a lot of things, but there are still negative things that happen. I'm not positive about everything in my life, but if negative things happen, you deal with them and navigate your way through them.
Yeah.
But you just try not to stay there, try and bring yourself back up. Shit things are going to happen in life. It's how you navigate your way through them. Who have you got to talk to about it? Reach out to people, journal, within the tools that you've got in your little toolbox, use those, but also learn about your relationship with yourself, because, when life goes on, and when, again, running from your subconscious programs, it's being a bit more conscious about what you're doing, and get to know yourself, get to love yourself.
Get to know yourself. That is honestly it is actually 100%. Great advice. Get to know yourself, and I find that's more implementable and more easier to do, like when you're alone.
Yeah.
Like if you just distance, you don't have to like completely distance yourself, become reclusive, or just take a step back, just a little step back, and then you can start going down the path of like reflection and that.
Because you spend a lot of time putting energy into other people, and that you've got a family or whatever that you focus your energy on, but then you've got to sometimes be not selfish. You just you've got to look after yourself, because if you don't put yourself first, you're not going to be able to show up as the best part. You're not going to be able to show up as your best self for other people.
Yeah, help yourself to help
and that's
others.
A big truth bomb. Put yourself first. That's what I always do.
That's the final statement.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for coming and sit down for me.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well done for everything you've achieved as well. Hats off to you. You feel
same to you. Yeah,
accomplished quite a lot.
Thanks.
And so, well done. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. Hey, that wasn't bad, was it?
That was really good. I really